You're watching Teng Tools Muscle Garage, the home of New Zealand's toughest muscle cars, hot rods and street machines. Proudly brought to you by Teng Tools in association with Mount Shop, Maguire's and Need a Car. Coming up, the recreation of a wild American 60s show rod built right here in New Zealand for a SEMA unveil. And a step back in time on the Kapiti Coast, we shed raid Taylorville. But it's our mates at Maguire's getting us underway. This week, we're in Rota Vegas, on the trail of a group quickly becoming known for their ground-scraping customs and cruises. Meet the Knuckle Draggers.
You know, there was a small group of us. We used to roll to shows and things like that together. And
I said to him, hey, listen, I've got a couple of mates, you've got a couple of mates, why don't we start our own club? So 3 years down the track, here we are. A few cars now, as you can see, so yeah, we're loving it.
Knuckle Draggers is just a bunch of friends, mates, who've just sort of got together, and cars is just another thing that we like to do together, you know. So it's a bunch of mates having a good time, having some beers, going to do stuff, and it's been, yeah, it's ever since we've sort of created this and getting slowly bigger, mate. Yeah.
3 years and around 30 members later, the club hasn't abandoned its love of the style of cars that brought them together in the first place.
Low, big white walls, slammed to the ground, and just cool cars. There's a lot of cars out there which are also cool, but this is our style.
Lowered, dumped on its ass is always a good look, as you can see. A lot of airbag cars here, a lot of airbag, and wide white, saying hubcaps. You know, they're just traditional looking cars.
customs, whether it's mild or, you know, wild. The way that the cars were engineered in the 50s, you know, just the styling and that, you know, you got that bomber plane look, you know. Yeah, it was only in that era that it was really that predominant. There is no rules, and these things were built so cool at the start, but, you know, there's still room for improvement and to make it your own.
Chopped, sectioned, slammed, that's our priority.
And while a dumped classic custom or mild custom isn't an absolute hard and fast rule round here, it's not too far off either.
We're straight up with each other, you know, we drink beer together, we laugh together, and we give each other stick, and, you know, if somebody's veering off the style a bit, we'll just, you know, give them a bit of grief for it.
What are you doing? You've got to get it. We don't tell them they have to get a car like that, but we say, you know, when someone sells a car, check this out, buy this car, you know, and it is pretty much, as you can see, it's the type of car we like.
And that Knuckle Dragger's peer pressure seems to be working out pretty well for them. Within the ranks sit some seriously cool sleds. Shane's chopped and dropped caddy is as fresh as they get on our shores. The chop puts this big coupe firmly into full or radical custom territory, as is the case with Gareth's shoebox. The hard-topped Ford hails from a well-known USA shop, Lords of Customs. By comparison, a mild custom still retains most of its original lines. Shaved, nosed, decked are terms that indicate the car's panels have been relieved of some of their factory clutter, but they forego heavy body mods like roof chops, sectioning or channeling for customization in the vein of paint, suspension, wheel and tyre. Felicia's 56 Mercury is a well-executed example of this factory-enhanced style, and the car scooped the overall title at Americana earlier this year. But at some point, no matter how cool they are, the cars are just the excuse, and the Knuckle Draggers aren't too keen to let something like club politics weigh them down.
We're not a serious club, you know, we're a social club, social car club, I suppose. We just want to be just mates and the boys and having a cruise and enjoying it.
We're not uptight about anything, we just cruise at our own pace, you know. We're going somewhere, we're not in a race to get there, we just, you know, enjoy the time and just hang out and, yeah, drink beer and cruise, you know. Probably shouldn't chuck those two together, eh? Drink beer and cruise. Nah, cut that one out.
Yeah, the old story, we go cruising, and when we get there, have a party time, have a good time, and appreciates everybody's company. And it's a hobby at the end of the day. Family comes first always, then your work, then your hobby, right? Then that's your car club. You know, just keep it real and just roll and have a good time.
3 years down, it's still early days, but don't expect the Knuckle Draggers to go fixing something that ain't broken. With plenty more in the build, and in some cases on the boat, you can expect to see a lot more of this Rotorua-based club as they bring their brand of low-slung custom culture to the New Zealand tarmac.
I guess just keep doing what we're doing. You know, we don't want to get too big to where we lose the personality of and the reasons why we started the club. Just want to retain that, you know, and I think that the membership will be, you know, I mean, we've got quite a few members now and more coming every meeting sort of thing. But for me, it's just keeping the reasons of why we started it.
You look at Sofa City, they're going for 50 years, and the Wakatani Club that are pretty local, they're also going for 50 odd years, and that's pretty big and pretty special. And that's our goal, is to keep around for the last 50 years and roll, be happy, and have fun.
We've all got kids growing up, so it would be good when the kids get older, they join the club and have cars as well. So yeah, I think it's a long-term thing. Why not, eh? You know, you only live once, eh? So you gotta have a bit of fun. So why not? We'll just keep it going as long as we can, man. You know.
Cars, I think everybody's got to have a hobby. The missus, she sort of doesn't always agree, but I always remind her that it's better them in the shed than at the pub.
It is a bug. But I mean, people have bugs. You know, women buy shoes.
I've had cars since since I could have a licence. I've always had something different. I couldn't just have a normal car to drive to work. Come home and you look at this beautiful thing in the garage, mate, and straight away you're happy again, eh? You know. So I've always had cars, man, and I always probably will, eh? It's a massive thing.
Right, thanks to our mates at Mount Shop, we're shed raiding. However, calling this one a shed might be the understatement of the century, or maybe that should be last century. Yep, it's a step back in time on the Kapiti Coast as we check out Clive Taylor's Taylorville.
Well, this was actually my trucking company's yard and workshop, and we had 3 trucks in those days, and this is where we parked in here, and we were here for about 20 years, I suppose, without the council's permission, so we had to move out. I thought, well, yeah, I can use this for all my old cars now, and so I had 2 or 3 of them. They just grew, as they do. Made it into what we've made it today, a little service station and workshop, and anything old I like, especially old Fords.
A stop at Taylorville is quite the surreal experience, one that leaves you looking for signs of 21st century life in the nearby hills, just to be sure. The old workshop and garage, filled with pre-war cars and early automotive memorabilia, is an impressive sight in itself, but the wheels were really set in motion when Clive decided the adjoining lean-to spray booth could be better utilised, say, as a 50s diner. An overhaul so convincing that its success created a new set of problems.
The diner got too small. On a Friday night, you wouldn't know who was turning up. And then in the weekends or whatever, so we decided we needed something a wee bit bigger. What can we do? We'll build a saloon.
The saloon again looks very convincing, and there's a good reason for that. You see, Clive had purchased a 55 Crown Victoria out of Portland, Oregon, which was trailered to Texas before a bit of fixing up and driving their way to LA via Las Vegas, and quite possibly every small town second-hand or antique store they could find.
Well, I love Texas. That's my favourite place in America, and I've got friends there. And so that's why we've gone for that theme, with the saloon and the jail, the blacksmith shop, and then the wee cabin. Adding all the time. We still go to markets and swap meets and buy bits and pieces and just keep adding to it. It's a disease, probably.
Taylorville is a lot to take in. The sheer number of collectibles is overwhelming enough, but just when you think you've got a handle on it, you'll spot another path that leads to a nearby cabin, even a lawn area that's seen wedding duties. It's got to the stage where it's now a genuine venue for hire, but like the trucking yard before it, it's the location that perhaps is Taylorville's biggest surprise. At the end of a very standard-looking driveway in residential Paraparaumu.
Yeah, well, people are quite amazed when they do arrive here and see what they've got, because they go down a long drive and they don't know what really they're coming to until they get here, and and they're overawed, some of them, you know.
But Teng's Muscle Garage is a car show, so we better get back on task. Fortunately for us, Clive has that covered rather nicely too.
Ford man through and through, yes, yeah. Grew up with old V8s, Model A's. I don't know how many different cars I've owned, but yeah, I just like the old Fords. There's something about them, I think. I like the 30s era. I learnt to drive in a Model A. I used to wait at the end of the road every night for my dad, because we lived down a private road, and I'd wait at the end of the drive when I was about 8 or 10, and I'd drive this old Model A truck up the road to home. So I've had a few of those, but the 32 is like a Model A with a V8 in it, so they're a wee bit better. Probably got too many, but yeah, we've got a choice of what we can drive, yeah.
And between the maintenance on his collection of early Fords, the automotive memorabilia, and of course, all the old American-style buildings that house them, it'd be a fair bet to say Clive will have his hands full for some time.
People go, oh, well, you need a chapel for weddings and get married. Like, no, we're not doing any more buildings. I've actually got to live to 150 because I've got that much to do.
Amazing results, even at full sight.
You're back with Teng's Muscle Garage. Right, our friends at Need a Car have something a little bit special for you this week. Tribute versions to the iconic and groundbreaking cars of our hobby aren't exactly common, but they're nothing new either. However, when it comes to recreating a wild American 60s show rod, one that's been lost for nearly 50 years, then that task becomes far more complex. Now try doing it from Cambridge and keeping it secret for 7 years before shipping it stateside for a grand SEMA unveiling. Meet a man who clearly enjoys a challenge, Martin Bennett, and his take on uncertain T.
I have no idea how you would say to somebody, you can't describe it because people don't get it. It's when people come in and go, holy cow, you know? So we get a bit of that holy cow thing.
Martin is no stranger to bolting together cars. He's done it all his life. But it was after completion of this 37 Ford truck in 2012 that he'd be approached for an interview to run in a local Waikato publication. An innocent question would turn Martin's attention to a collection of models on the shelf.
She said, so what are you going to do now? And I said, oh, my wife wants to travel. So, and I just happened to pick the box up and said, oh, if I was going to do anything again, I'd build a big one of these. And she put in the article, well, Marion, you better buy your tickets because he's got another plan.
Yes, by the time it hit print, the wheels were already well in motion. The grand plan? To recreate an iconic 60s American show car right here in New Zealand. Too easy? Well, Factor in that this lost hot rod hasn't been sighted since '72. Yes, Martin and his build crew would be reverse engineering the full-size version, referencing just a 1/24th scale model and a handful of magazine articles.
Steve Scott was, he must have had some funny stuff going on in his brain when he was a young fella. But when you read the drawing, the sketch that he created it from, because it was an idea of a schoolmate saying, wouldn't it be cool if somebody built that? And he said, well, yeah, I will. He fell out with Barris because he beat Barris at some major hot rod shows. When he debuted it at what's now the Grand National Roadster Show in January in '65, he blew all the big builders out of the water. There was this era when they made some really weird cars, and I think this was just one of them. And because I had the model, I had everything I needed to do what I thought we would do, you know. So it was created.
The first step was that tilted T-body, and the first stop was a mate, Clive Plumtree, a man who works with wood. You see, the theory was that if you needed to recreate this one-off from fiberglass, then an intricate wooden buck would need to be formed before taking a mold from that. Martin and crew figured, why not take that a step further, using traditional boat building techniques to craft the body? The dimensions here needed to be bang on, but it was the 1/24th scale model's incredible accuracy that would become the go-to for all aspects of the project.
Monogram, obviously, when they make the models, go to an awful lot of detail. You know, when we built the first chassis, and we just made it flat because that's what it looked like. But when we put the body on, it just went all wrong. It just, proportions were wrong and its stance was wrong. And then we took the chassis, the plastic chassis, you know, 1/24th, put it on the table, and we found that it wasn't flat. And when we worked it out, it had a 3-degree kick at the firewall. And once we did that to the chassis, everything looked right. You know, the key is exactly the same size as the model. We multiplied it up. You know, the diamonds in the seats are exactly the same size, the diamonds in the roof, exactly the same amount of buttons. And it's harder to do that than just create, this is how we have to do it. It was a challenge.
Challenge is as much of an understatement as this tilted T is an overstatement. Sure, the model might have been crucial in solving its share of head scratches, but there would be plenty more to come in the form of 60s parts that simply are no longer available. The 12 by 16-inch ET wheels were custom made, while 2 inches width was added to the Raider pie crusts. Yes, that meant 2 inches added to the factory mold especially. The 60s style bold glass Stewart Warner gauges, they were made just for this car. It goes on, Hillborn didn't make an injection setup for Buick's 401, or so they thought. Moon's aluminium valley cover mold broke years ago and was especially glued back together. They also dusted off their long-retired sump mold while they were there. Just collecting these key components would take the best part of 5 years, enough you would think to make most start grasping at a plan B.
There was no way, if I started the project, there's no way I was going to not see it through. And seeing it now as a finished product, yeah, there's a certain amount of pride there because it's come out. I've seen it in my mind often, but in reality, when you see it in real life, there's a bit of pride there, so that's cool.
And a car this special is certainly deserving of a worthy debut. They don't get much bigger than Las Vegas's SEMA show, and that is where Martin's Uncertain T recreation has just made a grand first appearance. The next few months will be spent touring the US show circuit. Whether the original ever actually drove is up for debate, but version 2 certainly will, ready to turn treads and heads in the States via a rather comical 5-inch drive shaft. Possibly just as an impressive a feat is that Martin has kept this wild recreation under wraps here for 7 years. We were grateful to point the camera at it before its big boat ride, and a special unveil and farewell night was well patronised by Martin's club, Stragglers Rod and Custom. It's been a wild ride of a build for a wild car, a car that once our American friends get a look at, realistically may never return to our shores.
I just liked that it was different. It's enough to be a tea bucket, but it's enough to be a weird tea bucket. You know, people say, oh, it's a Herman Munster car and all that. It isn't. It's Steve Scott's creation, you know, and it was a special car. in America, I'm sure that they'll get it more than perhaps in New Zealand. In that first time, that first 18 months, it won everything it went into. You know, I'm not saying it's going to win anything. I didn't do it to do that. I did it because I wanted the challenge to do it.
Your ride needs some love? We've got you sorted. Thanks to our mates at Maguire's, we have this massive complete car care pack worth $700 to give away, plus a $500 mount shop voucher to keep the underside shipshape too. And to top it off, a 1-year subscription to NZ V8 magazine. To enter, simply head to themotorhood.com and hit the Teng Tools Muscle Garage link. And while you're there, make sure you get your name in the draw for NZ V8's massive Summer Nats 2020 experience. The prize includes return flights for you and a mate, 4 nights accommodation, and of course, platinum passes to this Aussie event that's like no other. What are you waiting for? Teng Tools Muscle Garage was proudly brought to you by Teng Tools. Get organised. Mount Shop, undercar specialists. Maguire's, people who love cars love Maguire's. And Need a Car, the easy way to research and buy cars online.